A Tiny Revolution features adults having adult conversations, which means that adult language is probably going to be present, just so you know. Hey friends, you're listening to A Tiny Revolution, a podcast about ordinary people living revolutionary lives. I'm Kevin Garcia, and welcome to another episode. My voice is a little on the fritzy side, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot. Cute, right? Isn't that cute sounding? Hi, I love you. I hope you're doing good. The only big fat announcement I have this week is that if you want to get in on some Advent meditations, those will be coming out next week for all my Patreon supporters, along with a new video on Monday explaining how to do like the basics of meditation. So you can join us on YouTube for that, and then join us on Patreon for the rest of it. Also coming out later this month is my Christmas EP, which is going to I don't know what it's called yet. It's probably just going to be called Make the Yuletide Gay, because I fucking love a pun. And it's going to be including some of your favorites, and it's yours for free if you become a sustaining partner on Patreon. Again, more details are coming forth about that. Last announcement, Q Christian Fellowship Conference is in January. Tickets are still available. If you haven't got your tickets yet, why not? It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Myself is going to be there. Wow, grammar is cool, right? I'm going to be there. Matthias Roberts is going to be there. Gunger is the special music, and Michael and Lisa Gunger are going to be the special guests on my first ever live show happening from the podcast stage at QCF. It's the first time I've ever done a podcast stage before. I'm so excited to be a part of that. So go ahead and plan your schedules accordingly. I'm doing another workshop there called Let's Talk About Sexual Ethics, and I bet you can guess what that's about. We'll be navigating the ins and outs of creating your own specific sexual ethic for, what works for you. So go ahead and go to thekevingarcia.com, and you can, actually don't go there. Go to qchristian. So for that, go to qchristian.org, get all of your tickets there, and then we can do it up real big. I'm really excited about this, y'all. Now, on to the conversation today. Today, I am sharing a conversation I had a few weeks ago with my friend Jared Byas. Jared is a professor and a thinker and a parent and an amazing human, and also the co-host of The Bible for Normal People alongside Pete Enns, which is one of my personal favorite podcasts. If you're somebody who is trying to navigate the Bible in a way that is new, refreshing, and a lot more nuanced than maybe what you grew up in evangelicalism, like I did, I would definitely suggest checking out The Bible for Normal People. It really breaks it down in a way that is a lot more accessible than a lot of other resources. So I love that book. I love that podcast for so many reasons. Just go ahead and grab yourself some coffee, I'm going to go get some coffee as I'm editing this podcast, and then enjoy this conversation with my friend, Jared Byas.
I think I tend to say I'm in the business of connection and communication. I think that's what I would say. In everything, that's the thread that goes through all of my careers. I also hate that question and having to answer it according to this is what I do to get a paycheck, because I think that's really limiting as a narrative.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I try to think what's the threads that connect all of the things that I've done in my life, and I think a passion for connection and a passion for clear communication, definitely. And I'm a teacher. I think I had a short story. I had a coach once. I did some work for a personal life coach, and he couldn't pay. This was early on. And so we switched service. We swapped services. And so we did a life coaching session for me. And within one session, he said, Jared, I think what you are at your core, you're an editor. You edit life for people. And that's always stuck with me because I think it's actually profoundly true. So.
Well, can you edit my life? Because Lord knows I need a little bit of cleaning up around the edges right now.
Yeah, we may need more than one podcast session for that.
Okay, perfect. Great. So, because that's what I brought you on here, is just to come and fix my life for me. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
Sweet.
I think that you're a really fucking cool person,
Oh,
for so many reasons. Like my favorite thing was like when I actually met you at Wild Goose, and like I was a little turnt when I met you, I think, because I was literally thinking, I was like, who the fuck are these guys talking to my friends? And then I was like, oh, because I was just like, but I also like think that about everybody. Not in a way that's like defensive, just genuinely curious.
oh,
And then
good.
it was y'all. I was like, oh my gosh, I love your work.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I recognize you right away. So that's telling, I think. I don't know what that says, but it says something. I don't
It
know.
says that like my life revolves in like queer Twitter land. And so like it's just like when there's like other people, we joke about it sometimes, but I think it's kind of true that I sometimes forget that straight people exist, because I'm just everything I do is like something queer or LGBTQ related, and so like when I meet a really cool straight person, I'm like, oh, I actually like you. This is nice.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that story. I like how it
Yeah.
inverts a lot of things. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Listen, you ever come down to Atlanta, I will show you the weirdest time. It's the greatest.
Oh, I love it. I love weird. I appreciate weird.
There, me and Jeff Chu were grabbing drinks, and he says, "Hey, meet me at this speakeasy in Edgewood." I'm like, "There's a speakeasy in Edgewood," which is like one of the neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
and we just met up for drinks. Never had hung out before, and got drinks at the speakeasy. It was the greatest thing to discover something weird in my city. It was behind a bookcase in a pizza shop.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so it was the tightest. I don't know. I have so many things we could talk about. We could talk about your podcast. We could talk about your work, your passion for the Bible. Would you say that you have a passion for the Bible, or is it just like incidentally you fell into it?
Yeah, I would say I did have a very strong passion for the Bible I intuited as a young kid that our whole faith paradigm was sort of based on this one book. And so I was a closeted like Bible nerd from a very young age. I didn't tell anyone about that for a long time. But yeah, I think it's probably more, if I'm being really honest, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. So I think it was more
Same.
oh yeah, that's right. We do share that. So I think it was more about control. I think early on I realized if I can control this book, I can feel safe in this faith space. I feel like I can navigate it better than other people, and that's important to me as a young kid. I mean, I couldn't articulate that obviously, but I think that's how I was feeling. So yeah, I think a little bit of fell into it, but I think it was more just kind of navigating through my own personality, the things I felt like I needed to feel in control and feel safe. And then now it's much less of a passion for the Bible itself, more as like, again, I kind of understand this is the framework that a lot of people I care about see the world through. And I'm a teacher. I'm passionate about communication, connection. And I think this is a tool. It's sort of a symbol for a lot of people for those things.
Yeah.
And so if I want to connect with people that I care about, then this is something I need to enter their world. So
yeah, that's where I'm currently at. I started seminary 3 months ago, already going in like crisis of faith mode of just like, I don't know what the hell I believe anymore. About like, just like, the big C church. And cause like, I've known all the things about how the Bible was formed. And I think sitting through like Old Testament interpretation and learning like how like the Pentateuch came together and how like Israel probably came together, and then sitting through history of Christianity and learning more about how the early church was actually formed. I sit here like looking at it, I'm just like, yes, I get the Bible is like, if we're going to look at it, it's almost just like as an icon that's supposed to point us beyond our beyond this moment right here into something, a greater cosmic truth. And then at the same time, I'm just like, is there, I don't know, like there's just been this question that's been eating at me. It's just like, is there a better way to do this, or is there just a different way of connecting? Because like, but like the thing that keeps me here is what you mentioned is like a lot of the people that I care about, like this is very central to their practice. Christianity is central to their identity. And so as such, it's like, it behooves me to kind of like stay in this space for some reason.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you're naming a lot of my journey too. One thing I would say, maybe we can talk about this a little bit, is one thing I'm interested in is changing the feelings and the connotation around this idea of crisis of faith. Because I have to be careful because I get really excited when people tell me they're going through a crisis of faith.
Yes.
In my story, crisis of faith, really, what you really mean is beginning of faith.
Maybe.
and so that's exciting. I mean, it's like kind of being born again. If you think about that in John 3, it's like, think about being born. That's a violent, disruptive process. You didn't ask to be born like that. There's nothing like, I don't think there's anything all that. It's, we are like cute babies. Oh, the birthing process is so beautiful. It's a violent, like,
it's bloody and you shit yourself.
Yeah.
Like women shit themselves all the time.
Right. Yeah. And from the baby's perspective, like Sartre talks about this, where it's like this thrownness. You're just thrown into this new environment and you don't know the language. You don't know anything. It's scary as shit. Like, and so that for me, if you're not scared out of your mind, then you haven't been born again. So that's where life gets interesting. The life of faith for me, it gets interesting when we're born again. We're thrown into this unknown, groundless shit storm of disbelief and belief, and I don't know the language and I don't have a concept for that, and that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what I think of as being born again.
Well, then literally I am in the midst of a canal and like they're like 2 seconds away from doing a C-section, I think.
So I'm excited for you. So I have to be careful though, because it doesn't feel that way. It can feel very scary and disorienting. So I always want to approach it differently. But inside, I'm giving you the inside scoop. Inside, when people tell me that, I'm excited.
You're thrilled.
Yeah.
What's so interesting is like I was talking with a friend of mine about like the big question that I keep coming back to is like, what does it even mean to be a Christian right now? Like,
did you answer that?
Me?
Yeah.
And see, I don't know. Like, I had this epiphany. So I do this thing where like I'll go sit out on my back porch of my apartment building every single night and just spend some time by myself, and just ponder life and think. And it was so. I actually was sitting there talking to God, like I did when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And what I would do is I would take these really long walks because my family, we lived in a golf course neighborhood. So I would walk around by myself, sit on like the golf course and just talk to God and just listen for God to talk back to me. And like, it feels, and I don't know if this is just me talking to myself or if God is actually talking back to me, or if there's a difference between like my body saying something and God saying something, which is ooky spooky mystic mumbo jumbo anyways. But I found myself as like, going on 29 years of age, talking to God like I was 16 again. I was like, I don't even know if I'm actually talking to you or not. And then the thing I kept coming back to was like, does it matter? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're really talking to God. And then I was walking inside. I said, like, I don't think Jesus was concerned about people's belief systems as much as he was concerned with like how they were living. So like, if to be a Christian means to follow the way of Christ, like love Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Upon all these things, the law hangs. And so if it is like literally like based off of just like living in a way that honors humanity in yourself and in others, like then I'm already doing that. Then I'm already on the path of Christ, right? Mm-hmm. And so was Gandhi, and so are so many non-Christian people that I know,
right? Like
are on the path of Christ, and so it's like.
So then the question is thrust back on you, then why are you a Christian? Exactly.
That's I guess that really is the question. It's not so much like what does it mean to be a Christian, because
well, and I think it's a nuance of language. Like I think as public figures and as people who like to ponder these big questions, we like to universalize. What does it mean to be a Christian in this like generic sense? But I think the Bible continues to point us back to, and I would say it's a helpful turn to say, what does it mean for you to be a Christian? I think that's a better question than what does it mean to be a Christian? Because that you can stay at arm's length and we can write books about that and get PhDs, and that's great as a field of study. But sort of existentially, you as a human being, you have to answer that second question. What does it mean for you to be? I had people because of the podcast reach out and sort of like, hey, save my faith. Like, I'm kind of going down the rabbit trail of all these things and everything's going. So I got on a call with one because he was a pastor and he kind of had a pretty public profile, but secretly he was kind of dying inside. Like, I have all these questions. And I think I did not help him at all. Because, he was like, so basically he got on, he was very intent. Like, I need to know why you're still a Christian. Like, tell me the reasons. And my only response was, well, because I choose to be. Well,
Yeah.
what? Wait. Like, and so he kept saying, but what about like the physical evidence and all that stuff? And I said, well, there's not a lot. So it just became this circle. It almost was laughable. Well, why are you? Because I choose to be. But why do you choose to be? Because that's my choice.
Yeah.
And so he kept wanting this thing. So by the end, he was like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, thanks for being on the call. You were so unhelpful.
Wow.
But that's kind of how it comes, is like, I think until we come to that place, we are searching for these objective things that at the end of the day, I think come back to choice on some level.
Yeah.
So
it's, and I think that's what's kind of keeping me here. Because what's so interesting too is like, the Southern Baptist Convention all day is saying that I'm not a real Christian. Like, what is it they said recently? They categorically deny that gay Christian is like an actual thing.
Yeah. How does it feel to have your existence denied?
Yeah. I think they said as a biblical category. And I said, first of all, you're right. There were no gay Christians in the Bible because it wasn't
Right.
Sexuality wasn't a concept in the old world. So you know what? You're right. I also deny that as a biblical category.
Right. So you agree with the Southern Baptists? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Not. But they tell me, like, there's so many people who tell me all day that I can't be a Christian or that I'm not a Christian. And when that hits my eightness, I'm just like, fuck you. I am a Christian.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. There's something to that, I think. I think there's something to that for me as well. Like, who are you to tell me? Like, no, I'm going to claim this word mostly just out of spite. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I'm just like, am I being a Christian just to be spiteful with the rest of the world? Because like all the work that I'm doing now too, like I make queer Christian content. I work with Reformation Project. I'm a part of I do organizing work in Atlanta to help change policies around, the shitty mega churches of Atlanta. And yet, like, I'm over here, like, just having the question of why. But
I think there's something about that. As an 8, I think when you can transform that into these more emotionally mature, desires of, well, you can do that. Moving it from spite to on behalf of those who really don't know if they can be a Christian and be queer. That's where you can, I think, are making an impact. You're kind of doing it on behalf of people who maybe don't have that inner strength. They don't have the inner fuck you. They have the inner, oh, I'm a piece of shit. And I think it's really good work to be able to do that, to be able to transform that spite into, no, I'm going to reclaim this so that others who don't feel strong enough can sort of ride on my coattails for a while until they do feel strong enough.
Yeah. My friend Brett calls it like giving people the privilege of going second.
Well said. I like that.
Yeah. And there's so many people, I think, who open doors for us. I look to people in my life who like are still kind of like sticking around, and in a way, like it helps me, like gay pastors, like, are the ones who like I'll go to. I'm just like, listen, like, is it still possible? Like I was texting Dr. Robin Henderson Espinosa.
Yep.
Dr. Robin was like, I texted them and I was like, hey, is it normal to have a crisis? Like, just like don't know what you're doing in seminary every single day, your first semester. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. You're right on point. You're doing great. And it's just, it's a little exhausting, I feel.
Oh yeah.
But it's weird. It's a weird time in my life. And that's okay. And that is okay. Like, that's the other universal truth, is like on the other side of all of this is like, yes, I have all of these questions and none of these questions will kill me. More than likely they won't kill me.
Right.
But
right. And
if
weird. They do, that's okay too.
Yeah. If they do kill me, like either I will be in the life to come, chilling, on my little angel cloud with my harp or whatever. That people just like, what do you think happens after you die? I'm just like, I think it's like, little fat babies with angel wings floating around. That's what I'm into, Just kidding. Just kidding. I guess that was also like another one of my questions. Like once I stopped worrying about going to hell, like that was a big shift. I'm just like, okay, well, what am I doing then? Like if my life is not about preparing for the life to come or what happens after we die, like how do I really live in a way that is like delightful and delicious and, you know, helps others feel the same thing?
Yeah, I think
even if that means like they walk away from the tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a hard sell for. I think one of the deepest narratives for me that sort of structured my life was this kind of purpose driven. I mean, before like purpose driven trademark, but just this like linear understanding of history. That so I'm Native American. I'm Choctaw, and so there was this conflict which I didn't understand as a kid at all. But on the one hand, you have this Native American view of the cyclical nature of things. And that was taught to me as a kid. I remember hearing that a lot and not having any idea what it meant. Because I think I was so ingrained from my Christian indoctrination of thinking of time linearly. And like purpose-driven, like we're all headed somewhere. There's a direction, whether that's heaven or hell or, you know, fulfilling your purpose, your destiny, whatever that is. I just had no concept for that. And then coming as I'm older and starting to deconstruct that idea and feeling the purposelessness of the cycle of life. And then thinking, but there's people out there who revel in it, who find so much meaning in the cyclical nature of life. I want that. Like I'm hungering for figuring out how that all works. Because yeah, I just think that's one influence that Christianity has had on the world in a way that it's almost the water we swim in or the air we breathe that we don't even recognize how linear we are. Business, church, lots of things are this sort of, we're heading toward something and that shapes us. But I also think that it keeps us from connection because we can use people as a means to an end when we always have an end. Anyway, not to get too abstract. But I
mean, that's where I live is in like the deep waters of conversation like this. So like, that's real.
Yeah. So,
and I sometimes like on that, like I think about like fact like I'm being in seminary right now, like how this is. I don't want seminary to be a means unto an end. Like I want it to be this transformational experience. And I guess like the thing that I'm just bumping into is just like the initial growing pains of being in a space that, you know, it's a Presbyterian seminary and I'm not Presbyterian. Not that I have to be, but like I can just feel the difference between myself and some of my peers. Like Presbyterian worship services, like I'm not trying to knock them, but like when you come from like Black Baptist land where like music is on fire every single Sunday, like chapel on Monday morning is just like not the place I want to be. Not that they require us to go to chapel or anything like that, but I'm just like, these hymns suck. Like y'all need to like step your game up, which like, I know I lost all of my Presbyterian listeners in that moment, but you know, did I have any to begin with? I don't know. I didn't do the metrics.
You haven't done those yet? Yeah.
I'm not that big of a podcaster yet where I think I need to like break it down that much, but who knows after this one, they're like, oh my God, Jared Byas is on there. He's like amazing.
I don't know about that.
Who can say?
Yeah. I went through that experience too. I actually grew up charismatic. And so,
really?
I grew up charismatic. So my mom is come from a charismatic Native American background, and my dad was a Southern Baptist cowboy.
Holy shit, that's quite a combination.
Yeah, it was very interesting growing up. So
she was like charismatic. Did she like practice? Was she connected with her tribe, like the Choctaw?
Yeah, and my grandmother is actually itinerant kind of Choctaw pastor who goes around and helps women's ministries. She like for a while she just kind of traveled around in her van and started these ministries for like low income people and had church services and stuff. So a lot of speaking in tongues, very tied. Like, so she's an ordained minister in a charismatic, not mainline like a Pentecostal, but a lot of speaking in tongues is sort of the pinnacle of Christian life. And then, but then also my dad, very Southern Baptist. It was a confusing time probably which is probably why I
Were you-
ended up Presbyterian, because I was like, I don't know, you guys gotta figure this out.
And now that now that I've insulted Presbyterians and I'm figuring out that you're Presbyterian, this is great times.
Yeah.
That's been another episode of A Tiny Revolution, guys. We'll see you later.
Yeah, so then I ended up going to Liberty. So I went to Southern Baptist University.
How did I not know any of this?
Yeah, so I went to Liberty, and then I went to Westminster Seminary, which is where I met Pete Enns. Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Then I was a pastor at a kind of a mega church for 7 years, and then that all fell apart. So, yeah.
You've had quite an interesting life, haven't you?
Indeed. Yeah. It's been interesting and exhausting, to be honest. So,
I think that's an eight's motto is like interesting and exhausting.
That's right. When I hit 30, I was like, I think of it as like I came over this horizon, and I remember the day I turned 30 thinking, oh shit, like I still have a long way to go. Like I thought life was going to feel almost over when I hit 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh man, I probably should have slowed down in my 20s, because I'm not feeling another 40 years of this. So
that's where I am right now. Like I'm just like, I'm turning 29. I started working out though, because I figured like when I hit 30, like my metabolism is going to slow down even further than it did when I hit 25.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I would like to be like stereotypically hot by the time I hit 30, so that like I can be like that hot 30-year-old guy who's still going out to the clubs.
Nice. Yeah, you got to hit that peak, because then you know you're going to be sliding down. So you want to be the high point as high as possible.
Yeah, high as possible, which is also because I smoke weed so much.
Yeah, right. Lots of figurative ways you can be high as possible.
But I also finally feel okay talking about that, like in public spaces. Like I casually mentioned it on the last podcast with this guy I was talking to for his new book.
Yeah, which I listened to that episode, by the way. I thought it was great.
Thank you so much. That was very sweet of you.
So what's changed in you? Why do you feel more comfortable with it?
I think I don't care anymore. It's one of those things where just like there's so much of like I'm starting to talk more about like, at least like on my YouTube channel, like I want to start talking more about sex and sex positivity and sexual education in general. And so like it's one of those things where just like, well, if I'm gonna try to be my most authentic self, like I'm not ashamed of the fact that like I smoke. Like it's a thing. It's both like recreational, a little medicinal. And
do you feel like it was shame that kept you from talking about it? It wasn't like legal ramifications. It was just shame.
I think it was mostly shame, because like legally, like, no, I don't think the police are going to come to my house right now and like grab me. But I think it was like, it's a cultural thing. Okay. Probably like from my upbringing, and also just like wondering, I'm like, oh, that's another thing too about being like, a public figure, even though, which is weird to say, because like the Christian subculture is a tiny world as it is. Right. It doesn't take much to be a public figure. But it's just like, I'm just like, oh, who, like what, like when the first time I posted a video about sex on YouTube, I got a few long emails from people, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like when you work in public spaces, you open yourself up to public critique. Mm-hmm. And also I feel like people, and you can tell me if this is true for you or not, but people start taking like the kind of like the pseudo relationship that you do have, or what's it called? Parasocial relationship that you have with them. And they think they have like the space and authority to like come and correct you on something, and like try to shame you into like getting back to their point of view. And I'm sick of that. I don't want to be like, yes, I want to like, I care about the people that I'm serving through creating content, but at the same time, like I'm owned by no man, mm-hmm. And legally the only reason marijuana is illegal is because of racism. So as far as I'm concerned, like it's resistance. Mm-hmm. In some ways. That's also like very loose. And I can also say that because like as a white passing person, like it's so much easier for me to do something like this. And if I were caught, it's likely that I wouldn't serve any time. But a black person getting caught with weed is going to serve time. Yeah. And I recognize that's that's problematic.
Well, and
So,
to get not too much of a vulnerable space, because that's scary. I'm an 8. I don't like that.
oh, neither do I.
But I think there's something too that I'm just now starting to realize. Like, I've been a masterful pleaser of all people, while also pretending. Like, I don't think anyone, if they talk to me, would think I'm a people pleaser. I can come off as a kind of a hard ass, because I do in my job all the time. Like, I have to say hard things, I have hard conversations, but at the same time, there's this, as an 8, like, there's this deep sensitivity.
Yeah.
And I think people don't recognize that because my exterior is so hard. It's like, well, it got that way because as a kid, I was a very sensitive kid, like the kind of kid who, if someone cuts in line at school, I can't help but cry, and being so kind of ashamed of that, like, toughen up, especially growing up in Texas.
Yeah.
And
I relate to it so hard.
Yeah. So the criticism of, like, for me, it's this cycle of feeling ashamed that I feel so sensitive about it. Like, kind of buck up, you're a public figure. You got to be able to take this kind of criticism, and I can intellectualize it all day, but it still sucks. And my wife is having to, like, encourage me a lot with that, because I'm like, I just hang on to it for so long. Yeah.
That my friend's phone is ringing in the other room, which is fine.
So yeah, so that's that sensitivity that I don't want to care, but yet it's clear that I do.
Yeah, that's like the same thing. Like what you said about, like, being a very sensitive kid growing up. Same, like, very sensitive, like, especially like, and with how, like, my father spoke to me, like, he was a very harsh man, God rest his soul. But he could be really, really severe. And I think he didn't really know how to handle, like, such a sensitive, artistic child like myself. And also I'm more femme now, only because, like, I'll slap a lip color on and go out in public, but just, like, I was still very much an effeminate child. And growing up in rural Tennessee, like, there was, like, when I wanted to take voice lessons, I had to pay for them myself. But my brother wanted to take pole vaulting, like, and they got him a coach who was, like, an ex-Soviet Olympian to be his pole vaulting coach. And then he didn't even do it in college. And was like, this is fucked up.
Well, I don't know. And you can help me navigate this conversation, because I would just kind of respect your leadership in this. But I do feel like that's a conversation I've had with some close people, that as a kid, if you were effeminate, you were gay, especially growing up in Texas, and feeling weird. Like, I didn't know how I fit with that, because I was definitely in the same camp. And my parents, I think, did it well. Like, I was the only musical person in my family, like aunts, uncles, no one did a lot of that. And so my parents just, like, bought me a piano and, like, put it in my room, like, here, do something with this, because they were much more into sports and things, and I wasn't. And I never, like, I didn't own a pair of jeans ever. I always wanted to dress nicely with, like, khakis and, like, so I would have considered myself very effeminate, because I would have been artistic. I liked words. I liked deep. My friends were my closest friends were always girls, because I felt like I wanted to connect emotionally. And so, yeah, I mean, I think just, I'm just now starting to explore maybe what that was like for me. But yeah, that feeling of, am I gay? Because all the narrative growing up in Texas is, yeah, if you play the violin, or, like, my best friend's favorite color was hot pink, and he played the violin. So he got kind of made fun of and bullied quite a bit for that. And so and that's why we were probably friends. We were both pretty effeminate. And so anyway, I just think those narratives with sexuality and it just gets really
and how to perform your gender too.
Right. Yeah. Right. And how that all plays into it, and recognizing this spectrum, which just wasn't there as a kid in Texas. It's sort of like, if you have these 3 things, that makes you gay. And if you have these, like, it's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah, it so is. And I think there's I was actually talking with a friend of mine, and we're going to actually record a podcast on Monday on this, about how so much of, like, woke Twitter and just, like, justice work in general will sometimes really, like, rag on cishet men and just toxic masculinity, but we never ever talk about, like, what healthy masculinity looks like, and what it looks like to, like, here's the question: what does it mean to be a man? Right. Or something like that, where, like, we don't see the spectrum of gentleness and kindness. And if I, not to be Christian or anything, but to, reference Jesus, I think Jesus really puts, like, this, like, really beautiful depiction of what healthy masculinity can look like. What does it mean to, elevate women? What does it mean to serve people who are weaker than you? What does it mean to have close relationships that are healthy and honest?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, for me, like there's, I feel like a conversation that I want to start having is like, what does healthy masculinity look like? And how do we, outside of the question of like sexuality, because, I just think there's a conversation of just like, cause like if feminism is the belief that men and women are equal, then like we can't continue to talk shit about people just because they're cis and het. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate that. And I have to tread carefully as someone who's cis het, because I don't want to squelch the need for the anger and there's a lot that needs to be expressed, and I don't ever want to do that. But I also I'm very passionate about creativity, and for me, that's a positive stance toward the world. So I'm very excited about that conversation of how do we start having more, not negations, but positive creations by way of these conversations. Like, let's start building a new structure. Let's start building a new world. There's a lot of people who still need to be kind of burning down the old world. And I want to respect that journey, but I am very interested in the conversations of how do we create something new.
Yeah. I think you're such a healthy 8. It's so beautiful. Because like, that like we all know like the 8s out there who are super unhealthy. Like, we're terrible to be around when we're not in a good space. At least I am. I'll speak for myself. I'm horrible. I'm a total asshole. Which is why I have my meds and my therapist and good people around me to like tell me like, hey, you need to stop being a jerk to people, and maybe you should like try to see things from other people's perspectives. Question about you and being an 8. Welcome to Typology. This is my podcast on the Enneagram now.
Excellent.
Just kidding. Also, Ian Cron, if you're listening to this, I would love to have you on the show. Just call me, girl. Love you. I don't think he's listening. Anyways, do you have trouble seeing things from other people's perspective? For example, like I never have trouble just like going and like talking, like just like taking charge or just like buckling down and just doing the thing I need to do or asking for what I need. That's the real big thing. I'm always able to ask for what I need because I'm always okay with hearing no from people. And then I was talking to a friend of mine who's a 1, and that's something like he just can't do for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand that. Like, do you ever have trouble just seeing things from other people's perspectives? Period?
Yeah, I don't. And I wonder, I've thought a lot about that because my 2 is very strong, and I'm not sure what to do with that. But I mean, my mom was a 2, or my mom is a 2. She's still alive. But, and I don't know if it's just, I was able to really get a lot from her and learn a lot from her. Or just I think there's something to that, like sensitivity that never went away. Like, I think I'm a very empathetic person. And so, yeah, I don't think I've had trouble seeing things from other people's point of view or really understanding their needs. And sometimes in a lot of the settings I find myself in, I find myself helping them articulate their needs through a lot of questions. And, so I'm not sure, but I definitely lean to in that way, except for in seminary, whenever my 5-ness was like reinforced and I was congratulated, and there was a lot of unhealthy affirmation for me to like live in that headspace. But
I think that's typically like it's the intellectualizing of our emotions is our greatest defense mechanism.
Yes.
And like our greatest downfall too, because like I'm a functioning wreck a lot of the time. And so, and you can laugh at that if you want to, because like I do. But like I that's why I think like having grounding practices of yoga and working out and meditation have like just changed so much about my attitude towards my feelings and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I'm getting more honest on, like, I just posted a video like on Friday. I literally just turned my camera on and said, "Hi everyone. The reason I haven't been posting things is because I just don't know what I believe right now." And I don't know. I think I'm more scared of not being honest and less about being vulnerable now, I think.
What? Say that again, or maybe say it in a different way. What do you mean?
I'm more scared of not being honest with people than I am about the consequences of telling the truth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I mean, that wouldn't have been true before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, I mean, because like, we know how to, like, I know how to perform.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
I got my degree in music education. I know how to like play the game, and I could play it really, really well. And then it got to this point where I'm just like, the game was not built for somebody like me. Like, it's always rigged for a very specific kind of person to win. And so I don't want to play the game anymore. I don't want to play respectability politics. Like, there are people who are out here trying to be bridge builders, and I don't think I'm a bridge builder. I think I'm out here to, pull a Moses and roll up to the empire and say, like, let my people go.
I like that. I like that self-revelation, and because I think that's also an important conversation for the different people like you and me to keep happening, because I would say I am that bridge builder type. That is, like, my strength can be, I can bridge things and have people step over me to connect to different sides. And I just think I wish we had more good, healthy conversation about how in the war toward a new world, we need all that. And we don't have to keep fighting like, well, you need to be more like me. You need to be more the Moses, or you need to be more the bridge builder. Like, oppression has so many different facets. We need a lot of different angles to be able to attack it. And so I appreciate that about you. And for me, I always want to celebrate that and say, go for it. Do that. I see the need. Absolutely. But then, like, maybe don't get pissed off whenever that's not me. That's not my role in the world. So
that's also like something I have trouble with sometimes is like, I will fully admit, like, I have such black and white thinking sometimes. And when I'm in my best self, when I'm in like my more nuanced, my namaste realness, and I'm not like wanting to burn every fucking thing down, because I can get to the space of just like, you know what, like, God is, I don't see, also like saying the term that God is in control of everything is such like a theodicy that I don't want to deal with.
yeah, that's a problematic statement. Yeah.
And I never, but like in the sense that not so much that God is in control of anything, but if I believe that God is in everything and in everyone, and that, everything is hopefully moving towards good. I'd like to think that. I don't know that. But like, that's like the aspirational thing that I want to continue to hold on to, that things, because like to lose hope, I think is exhausting, more exhausting than continuing to hope. And then recognizing that people's advocacy looks different than mine.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying that. That's better than what I was saying. Yeah, that people's advocacy looks different, right?
Yeah, because like I need people who are going to be the moderates, who are going to like move the really conservative person from just like hating gay people to saying, well, gay people are humans and God loves them, even though they're sinful. We need that movement as much as we need, someone like Nadia Bolz-Weber, who is really ready to burn this shit to the ground.
Right. Yeah.
Which, every time I hear her preach, I'm just like, oh my God, please let me be your pastoral intern. Like, I think I would learn so much.
Right. And but that takes that new, and it kind of comes full circle to what we were talking about earlier about being able to not generalize, which honestly is what the Enneagram, if it did anything at that sort of macro level, it helped me realize that it's not black and white. That there are nuance, there's spectrums to pretty much all of human existence. And it's important that we recognize that. But also, I think it takes black and white thinking to be the Moseses, because you got to feel that passion, like you doing hard work of standing up to empire. You can't be too nuanced.
Right. Ugh.
So
I want to be more nuanced. It's just like, I don't know if it fits.
Right. And sometimes giving that grace of, hey, if it's, for me, it's always that tool, like black and white thinking. If that's a tool for this greater thing, then go for it. If that's how you're built, then use that strength. We have to use the tools we have. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 34.
34. Yeah. You're so wise for someone who, I don't know. I think I admire you, Jared.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That says something really powerful coming from an 8. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, because I don't really like a whole lot of people.
But he's even more. Excellent.
It's I think also what's interesting is like, I think people assume because like I'm a ridiculous, bubbly, like flamer of a gay, like on the internet, that like I just want to be everyone's BFF, and that is not the case at all. Like I want to like stand up in front of a crowd. I want to talk. I want to do my thing, and then I want to go hang out with my friends and not talk to anybody else.
Right. Well, I wonder if that's like I don't know if what they call it, like a social 8, or I don't know, maybe that's maybe it's not related to the Enneagram. But I would say I'm very much the same way. Mm-hmm. Like I'm very social with a group of people that I'm really comfortable with, and I can be awkward, and it's definitely draining to be in a group with people I don't know very well.
Yeah. Do you ever find like when like people are coming to like maybe like a live have you ever done the Bible for Normal People as a live show?
We did one at Penn State last year. I think that's been and we did the Wild Goose. So those have been our 2. Yeah.
I still need to do a live show somewhere, a live recording. I think it'd be fun. But like, do you ever find like, I don't know, it's, I guess it goes back to that question of like parasocial relationships where people just like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, you're just so great. And I try not to roll my eyes and say, listen, you're great too. Like, please be your own hero.
Yeah. Well, I had to learn that because I think my 2-ness where that really is a danger is when I was a pastor, and I was really thrown into, talk about the wisdom, is really trial by fire. I mean, I was one of 5 pastors of a congregation of about 4,000 people when I was 23.
Shit.
I mean, I'm talking like marriage counseling, someone calling an emergency meeting because their spouse just committed adultery with someone in the thing. And it was me. Like I was the primary pastor for that. That was like
Holy
23.
Shit.
So, of course, as an 8, I'm like, oh, of course I can handle this. I know everything. But looking back, like it was kind of traumatizing, I think. But anyway, yeah, it was huge for me because I definitely had a Messiah complex. And when I left the church, I learned that that's going to eat me alive if I keep feeding off. If my whole identity and ego is built on getting that kind of affirmation from people who actually don't know me very well, that's going to be probably one of my downfall. It's going to be really unhealthy. So I started learning that as I leave, and I have this memory burned in when we did this, like sending Pastor Jared away because we moved to Arizona so I could teach at a university, and people could come up. It was like a receiving line, and people could come up and they would say things like, we know God, I know that if you could decide, Jared, you would stay here and be with us, but I'm so glad that you're following God's leading. And in that, I just had this like moment of,
that makes me feel weird.
That moment of clarity where I just started saying, in that receiving line, I looked them in the eyes and I said, well, let's not blame God on this. This is our decision. This is something we wanted to do. And that was sort of me, that change of like, from that Messiah complex and that people pleaser, like I would have never said that before. So I don't know what we were talking about, but that just reminded me of that change in me. So, yeah.
Well, here's the thing on this podcast. I never know what the hell we're ever going to talk about. Like this is like, that's the whole shtick of this, my show.
I appreciate that. I like it. And it also creates anxiety for me. I'm not going to lie. Because we're our podcast, I'm so anal about everything.
You like have it all mapped out where you want the conversation to go, etc.
Well, we're more like free form from that, but we have like a topic, and if we veer too much off that topic, I'm like gonna get us back on track.
I love that. Yeah. I will probably. I'm not the way. I did a couple of. I'm on the Failed Missionary podcast in the next series on
nice.
Queerness and being on the mission field. But Corey is very much the same way, like planning everything out, and I'm the one who is always like trying to like screw it up.
Well, Corey's a 1, right? Isn't he 1?
Very much so. Yeah. And I love him to pieces for that, and like he keeps me. I don't know, like he's the one who keeps me on track. And again, body of Christ, we need like all parts. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Preach it.
Well, I like you a lot, Jared. I think you're a wonderful human. I'd like to be friends with you if you're down with that.
I am. That was the first thing I think that was the second thing you said to me when we first met.
Yeah, you have a kindness about you that I really dig.
I appreciate that.
But it's also not a bullshit kindness, which is what I encounter elsewhere, or at least what I perceive. But you're an all right guy.
Yes. I think it comes with a lot of scars, to be honest. There's a lot of pain going on.
Well, maybe next time we're on the line, we can unpack all of our pain and cry on the line. Does that sound like fun?
That sounds terrifying. Yeah.
Perfect. And that means whatever scares you the most means you should do it. I'm like, so like
I hate that.
Something like, so I should do LSD because like that drug scares the possibility of like having my brain melt scares me. Great.
Yeah, I'm totally. I take those things so to the logical conclusion immediately. I'm like, I'm going to call bullshit because it scares me to like jump out of a plane without a parachute, and that's dumb advice. Like I would die. Yeah. Like the fear is actually a healthy thing.
Oh, for sure.
Like evolutionarily, like we wouldn't have it if it didn't serve a humongous purpose. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So. I'm going to go drink acid because that scares me. So thanks for being on the line.
Yeah, no problem. Good. Well, let me know if it doesn't, if it doesn't kill you. Did it make you stronger?
I'll send you a picture of like the hole in my throat that it burns out.
And then you can write a memoir about how it made you stronger.
Yeah. This is exactly what we came here for. Thank you for fixing my life. As requested.
I need to like send you a disclaimer. But you can't follow any of that advice. I'm not responsible for it.
That was my conversation with my buddy, Jared Byas. You can connect with him across social media at jbyas. That's JBYAS, and at his website, jbyas.com. Book him for stuff. Listen to the Bible for normal people wherever you listen to your podcast. Be sure to leave them a rating as well because they're incredible. And Jared, I love you, dude. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking me through my, crisis of faith. I hope that you're doing well, dude. A Tiny Revolution is supported by 145 amazing humans on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it is the easiest way for you to support the creatives in your life that are making the content that matters. So if this podcast was good for you, if you thought it was helpful, if you thought it was enriching, if you think that we need more queer Christian content out there to make, the mainstream a little bit more shaky in their boots, you can go over to patreon.com/TheKevinGarcia and learn more about the perks. Everything from Slack channels to t-shirts, which are going to be coming out more frequently and better quality because I'm seizing the means of production like a good communist. And there's also ways to connect with me and other people. There's coaching calls, there's meditations, there's a new podcast that's starting this week. Like, are you kidding me? This shit's getting so real, you guys. We're a real ass creative doing real ass things. So go to patreon.com, join today, and honestly, know that your contribution is making my life easier and the lives of so many people better because it's reaching people in small towns, in small churches, people who never thought that they could connect with other queer Christians or even with their own queer identity. This is the business of saving lives, and I know that sounds dramatic, but I have the receipts. I'll send them to you. Just DM me for them. I love you. Thank you so much for listening today. So until next time, go see your therapist, take your meds, shake it out, go to the club, eat something delicious, drink some water, call your person. Be well. And happiest holidays, BB. I love you. So this has been another episode of A Tiny Revolution. My name is Kevin Garcia, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye now.